Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. I'm Panagiotis. I think it's the first time you see me on the screen. I'm from Transifex marketing team, and I'll be your host today. Just an FYI, the webinar, as always, is being recorded so that we can share it with you and the rest of the registrants afterwards. Today with us we have Maya, our head of product, and Nina, our head of customer success. I guess most of you know both of them. But this is an introduction for those who are not familiar with Transifex yet. So for the next 30 minutes or so, Nina and Maya are going to cover some of our most recent product releases and enhancements around security, integrations, content management, of course, Transifex Native, translation workflow, reporting, and they are also going to share a little bit around our upcoming releases. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to use the questions tab. We will try to address all of them either during or after or at the end of the presentations. So thank you again for joining us today. I know it's Thanksgiving for the US people. Maya, the ball to you.
Thank you, Panagiotis, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So before we deep dive into the main product, let's see the changes we've made for you to feel even more secure when using Transifex. Most of you might be familiar already with Single Sign-On, also known as SSO. Companies widely use Single Sign-On to benefit from centralized access management and increase security due to fewer passwords. SSO also means enhanced user experience, as the login experience is much more straightforward, lower IT costs, and eventually more efficiency due to fewer mundane tasks. To allow for a single sign-on experience, we use the SAML standard for exchanging authentication and authorization data between Transifex and identity providers, such as Okta. So please contact our support team to enable single sign-on for your Transifex organization. Moving forward, at Transifex, we take information security very seriously. This is a given, but we are currently also working on getting a certification to prove it. So we expect to get the SOC2 certificate at the beginning of 2022. Now, Nina will give you an overview of the integrations we released lately.
Thanks, Maya. Hi, everyone. So I will now present you the most important integration enhancements we released recently. Integrations allow us to connect with the services we use and localize our apps and digital content quickly. That is why we keep investing in integrations, building new ones, as well as we constantly improving what we already support. So here are the most important updates in this area. Zapier is not a new integration for Transifex, but we improved that even more, and now it's publicly available to everyone. It's worth highlighting that you can connect Transifex with tools like Google Drive, Slack, Dropbox, allowing you to automate notifications, as well as your localization workflow without coding. That way, you can save time from manual and repeated tasks and spend more time on the rewarding aspects of your work. Let's now see an example of a localization workflow and how this can easily be automated with Zapier. So let's consider that you have a new file in your Google folder. With Zapier, you can automatically have this resource created in Transifex, and the translation process can immediately start. Let's now consider that you want to update the source content of your file in Google Drive. These updates will automatically be pushed to Transifex for translation. As a last step, once your target languages in Transifex are fully translated, the translations will be uploaded to your Google folder just automatically. So you need to set up your Zaps in order to automate the desired part of your localization process. Connecting different services is important, but it's also important the file format you use to be supported as well, so that you can avoid converting your files from one type to another. After receiving requests about Google Slides and PPTX files, we decided to extend the list of our supported file formats, adding support for these types as well. Consider a fully automated workflow with Zapier and Google Slides. The only thing you need to do is to just create your presentation in Google Drive, and then Transifex will take care of the rest. Except for introducing new file formats, we also improved what we already support for XLSX files. Specifically, we introduced new columns that allow you to retrieve translation dates per target language, as well as tag your strings in Transifex by adding these tags in your XLX files directly. So there is no need to manually provide metadata information within Transifex Web Editor. You can simply update your source file, and Transifex will process this information upon file upload. Drupal is another existing integration we invested time on to improve. We added support for newer Drupal versions, and specifically for Drupal 8 and 9. Within a few steps, you can connect your Drupal instance with Transifex, send content to Transifex for translation, and then receive the finalized translations back automatically using webhooks. In July 2020, we released Figma plugin. We were impressed by the positive feedback we received and how this integration affected in a positive way our customers' localization experience. So we decided to extend this even more and take one step further by adding support for Sketch as well. Figma and Sketch are widely used by designers to prepare mockups, so we wanted to improve the experience of customers that use Sketch instead. The whole idea is to speed up the localization workflow by exchanging localization content between Transifex and Sketch, easily, quickly, and most importantly, before coding. Help translators understand the context of what we are translating, sharing screenshots with them. Translation quality is important, and translators need context for providing higher translation quality. Ensure the design doesn't break the code in a language. Designers can review the localized designs, fix errors on the spot before mockups are sent to the development team for coding, and how all this can be achieved within a single integration. With just 3 steps. First thing is you need to connect Transifex with Sketch. Then select the designs you want to send to Transifex for translation, along with the corresponding screenshots if you want to. And once the translations are ready, just pull them, and the localized design will be created per target languages in Sketch, being available to your designers for review. A dedicated webinar about Sketch will be conducted on December 16th, so stay tuned. With all these integrations and improvements, importing and exporting localization content is now easier than ever. But how easy is it to manage your content inside Transifex once this is imported? Maya will share more insights about this and give you an overview of our initiatives towards this direction. So Maya, back to you.
Thank you, Nina. So, as Nina also said, translation quality and accuracy are critical for the success of localization. It is essential to keep your content clean and up to date. This also includes translation memory. You would not want your translators to see outdated suggestions, or even worse, have TM auto fill up to translate your strings with obsolete translations. So by keeping your translation memory clean and up to date, you get improved accuracy, you reduce the manual work needed during the review, and you increase your team's efficiency. For that reason, we released a new translation management area, translation memory management area. You can find it under your project settings. As you may see in this screenshot, entering this translation memory management area, you search in the translation memory of a project. You may find filters like target language, source text, translations, and several date options. For each translation memory entry, you see data like when it was last used, if it's currently being used in any of your resources, the translator, and many more. So let's say that one of the terms you use in your product has been outdated. For example, you change the name of a feature and you don't want the old one to be shown anywhere anymore. You need to ensure that no translation memory entries use that term so that they do not pollute your future translations. You may search that term in your TM and delete either a particular entry or multiple entries at once. Other scenarios we heard from customers could be to do a mass cleanup to your translation memory to delete any entry that has not been used for the last 3 years, for example. And now let's move on to Transifex Native and the latest enhancements we've made there. We will not deep dive into the details of Transifex Native. We have dedicated webinars for that. You may find them on our website, or feel free to ask for resources in the chat. So for the purpose of this webinar, we will demonstrate how we localize our own Transifex application using Transifex Native. Now, remember how Nina said earlier that we released a new version of our Drupal integration to support Drupal 8 and 9? Well, we as Transifex also have strings that need to be updated to reflect this change. For example, here you can see this page where we list our top integrations, including Drupal, that at the bottom. It's not very clear, but there is a string that says that we currently support Drupal 7, 8, and 9. Well, it used to be like that in the past, right? So the string was only saying 7 and 8. We needed to make that change both on the source and the target languages. If we use the common localization scenario to make a change in the source string, we would need to find an available developer, good luck with that, ask them to change the string in the code, wait for them to push it back to Transifex, wait for the translations to happen, wait for the translations to go back in the code, and finally wait for a deployment. This is too much waiting. There's definitely a better way to do that. So let's see how this is done using Transifex Native. We have a video. We hope everything works fine. We had some glitches during the in the past. Okay, great. So let's see this page we just discussed about. It's not very clear, but here we can see the string that says that we support only 7 and 8. Let's get this string. We go to the Transifex editor to find it in the source language. There we go. So we choose English, which is the source language for our Transifex project. We find the string, and now I'm editing the string and adding the information that apart from 7 and 8, we support also version 9. We will save the source content. We will not keep the existing translations, as we would like the community to go in and translate them. And now we will also change one of the translations so that you can see how also translations are being published through Transifex Native. I'm not very fluent in Spanish, so we're using machine translation here, of course. We're saving the translation. And now let's go and see the page again. We are seeing Transifex application in English. We need to wait for a few minutes. And after a refresh, you can see that now the string has changed and it says that we support 7, 8, and 9. And now let's see Transifex in the Spanish version. Again, we will need to wait for a few minutes for the translations to be published. But after a refresh, you can see that the translation has also been published. That's it. So we just released changes without a need for a deployment. Me, as a content manager, I was the one with the control over the content. Developers did not have to worry about copywriting or being distracted for their main work, which is doing software, creating software. And we only showed you only a few of the benefits you get by using Transifex Native. We will teach you a little bit more. Native opens the world of new capabilities since it is deeply integrated to your application. So we can extract useful metadata that can take localization to another level. At this point, we extract data about the traffic of your application. So without having to leave Transifex, you can find information about the most visited languages, meaningful insights that can help you choose your localization, your next localization action items. For example, here you might want to invest more in one language that is very popular, or just use machine translation in another one that is not so frequently used. And finally, you can see details on the language usage data over time, so that you can see the impact of your efforts. Transifex Native is available to all, and we strongly recommend trying it out. Moving forward, we will see the enhancements we made related to the translation workflow. As you may already know, even though some words and meanings are identical in some locales, there are differences like the date format or currency. These differences require you to localize your app in multiple similar locales. But there are so many similarities that it is a waste of time and resources to localize those two locales totally independently. For this reason, we offer you the option to share translation memories across similar locales. As you can see in the screenshot, by enabling this option, your translators will be offered suggestions not only for the locale they are currently translating, in this case, French, France, but also for similar locales, like plain French. The next improvements we are going to present are related to machine translation. Transifex now also supports DeepL, a machine translation service famous for its quality, especially in the European languages. Now, let's focus on that last part. We have realized that the needs and resources of our customers are different for each language. You may want to use machine translation for a less popular language, but be super sensitive with the quality in another one. Currently, our workflows are set on a project level, so all the languages in a project follow the same workflow. This means that if you enable Auto Machine Translate, this will apply to all languages in a project. So as a first step to improve that, we offer more flexibility. We now have the option to enable Auto Machine Translation in your project, but exclude specific languages from it. But our team is currently making the whole workflow customizable on a language level, and we expect this to be released around early Q1. Now, Nina will proceed with the rest of the improvements in the translation workflow area.
Thanks, Maya. In the next slides, I will refer to the editor enhancements and how you can save time using the newly introduced features. So let's start with character limits and string instructions. As said previously, context is very important for translation quality. Setting character limits and string instructions is often essential for getting the desired results. But doing that for individual strings can be tiring. Thanks to the latest update, you can now set the string instructions and character limits for multiple strings at once. This works by simply selecting multiple strings, then inserting the desired values into the corresponding fields, and that's it. You can update existing instructions and character limits, add new ones, or even remove them in bulk within the editor with just one click. Different translation versions for a string were always available in the editor, so that you can check the different translations applied to a specific string in a specific language. Now, except for this information, Transifex shows the different source versions of a source string, along with the date this change took place, the user who did that change, as well as how this change was applied, via editor, via file upload, etc. Here is an example of how such entries are displayed in the editor. And in this example, we actually have 4 history entries here. So the first entry refers to the very first version of the source string. The next one refers to the very first translation of that string in the specific language. You can see that source entries are highlighted in gray. Then a source update takes place, and after a while, we have a new translation which reflects actually the recent changes in the source language. Next, we are going to talk about filters. Dealing with hundreds of strings is never easy, and we understand how important filtering is for the localization team inside Transifex. So we extended our filters, introducing 3 new ones. In this example, we combined filters to help us narrow down our results. So here we have the filter repeated strings, which returns all the repetitions unrelated to their translation status. At the same time, we have the filter for user suggestions, which returns all the strings for which a user suggestion is present here. The last introduced filter is the one that refers to reviewed state, and specifically when a string was reviewed. So we have the filters reviewed after and before, and now you can easily find the strings that were reviewed during a specific interval. Let's now move on to the reporting enhancements. Reporting is essential in localization, not only for tracking purposes, but also for cost estimation and budget planning. This is where we focused on the last months, introducing extended reports with the option to easily export this information from Transifex in a CSV format. So let's start with TM leverage report. In the past, TM leverage data was available in the UI on a resource language level without an option to export this information though. The challenge was mainly with projects where many resources were hosted and many languages were expected to be localized. Consider the effort a localization team needed to get leverage data for a project with 6 resources and 15 target languages. With our newly introduced reports, though, exporting TM leverage data is easy as a click of a button, which is actually what is needed to get the desired report. You can then share it with your vendor, with the rest of your team, estimate the translation cost, and make informed decisions. The steps are simple. You are on a resource page. You click on a target language, and then you use the link to the reports page. This page can also be accessed via the reports module at the top of the navigation menu in the application. Once you visit the page of the reports, you can use the filters to define which is the project, which are the resources, and the languages you are interested in getting a report for, and simply press the Generate CSV button, and your report will be received via email. Knowing the number of source words in your projects is no doubt necessary for calculating translation costs. Repetitions, however, may throw these calculations off, which is where tracking repetitions through Transifex can prove to be useful. But what we mean by repetitions? Let's consider we have a resource with 3 identical source strings. In this case, we have privacy policy. So for this specific resource, we have the following analysis. We have 2 repetitions, and the third one, the third instance, is considered the original string. A translation agency quotes you based on the number of words, but at the same time, they might offer discounts for the repetitions in the source language. The actual translatable word count could significantly drop, which can lead to significant cost reduction. These are the most important updates we would like to share with you today. However, more coming soon. So now I will pass you over to Maya, who will share more information about our upcoming releases. So Maya, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Nina. So if you are a Transifex customer, you must already know that our team constantly seeks your feedback. So based on that feedback, here are some of the upcoming releases we are planning to do or we are already working on. Collaborators management. We are improving the functionality and UI offered for managing collaborators within Transifex. We are making it easy to find collaborators based on your criteria and make actions. Translation checks. We want to give more control to our customers to decide over what should be checked. You will be able to create your own custom translation checks using regular expressions, trailing spaces, placeholders, and anything else your team needs. More translation memory enhancements are on the way. Specifically, automatically translate strings with less than 100% translation memory match, prioritize your translation memories per project, and many more. As we mentioned earlier, we will be able to also specify your preferred workflow on a language level per project. And finally, we are designing a new glossary with many more features because the localization of your glossary is equally important as the rest of your content. So this is a sneak peek of what's coming up. Thank you very much for being here today. I believe we have some questions. Me and Nina and maybe also Panayotis are here to answer them. About DeepL. Yes, as we mentioned, we plan to make the whole workflow on a language level. And one of these iterations will also include being able to specify the preferred machine translation service on a language level. So this will allow you to also select DeepL for one language and also select the level of formality you would like to use. So the intention is to have something like that in Q1. Nina, would you like to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. So regarding XLS XLSX files and the newly supported columns, as long as the initial source file you upload to Transifex includes these specific columns with the specific names in the header of each column, then Transifex will parse your content and will process the relevant information. In our documentation, we have detailed examples about these extra columns, along with how the XLSX files should look like. So you can get more information there, but we always we are available to address more questions, if any. Not sure if this answers the question. Just the highlights. From now on, whenever you add the column name tags, whatever tag you have in this column, it will be parsed by Transifex, and these tags will be added automatically to each one of the strings, depending on how these tags are added to your cells, to your cells in the spreadsheet. The same is applied to context information, to translation dates. So if you have a translation in Transifex and export the translation file, you can see the exact date this translation was applied to Transifex once you export the translation file. I hope this covers the question.
Nina, would you like also to take the next one? Is about DeepL and the settings we can apply, okay.
Yeah, so let me read it. Okay, so this is not only related to DeepL integration, but every machine translation service we have been integrated with. So this is about the code included in the source strings. So let's consider you have a source string, and in this string you also have HTML tags. So in this case, the HTML code, the HTML mode actually preserves these tags without touching them. But if you select the text mode, in this case, everything in the string is considered translatable text. And as a result, everything should be touched by the machine translation service you use.
I think we are done, right?
We have one more.
Yeah.
About machine translation. Can we get the machine translation engine to stick with predetermined glossary? Actually, we do have a machine translation service that currently supports this. It's Amazon. Of course, we don't have this for all machine translation service, but currently for Amazon, this is supported, as well as we have on beta, of course, the option to preserve glossary terms while you're using Google Machine Translation. But this is not supported for all. But if you are interested in one of them, we can share more information offline.
Yes, we are definitely considering extending this for other machine translation services as well. Now, another question about translation memory priorities, and will it include TM penalty option? Because the terminology might differ, let's make sure that we describe what we mean by translation memory priorities. Right now at Transifex, we have translation memory groups. This means that already you can share translation memories across projects. Well, what changes now is that with the current behavior, if you have similarity in multiple projects, in Transifex, we select which one to use when doing fill-up based on which one is the most recent. We've seen that there are cases that even though we want projects to share translation memories, we would like to prioritize some vs the other. So, for example, if we find the match in project A and project B, I would like to specify which one should have more priority vs the other. Now, that could be considered a penalty as well for the one that it's not highlighted. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean. This is what we're going to deliver, TM priorities, and also consequently penalties as well. Hope that covers the question. Is there a way not to see the translation from inactive strings in the suggestions from TM? We find that confusing. Yeah, there are requests about being able to do a cleanup in translation memory, as we described before, that would say that I only want to keep active strings. This is something, again, that we consider for the roadmap, not very far away. Right now, this is not possible because the main scenario of using translation memory is to actually take advantage of all translations, even if they are not active. So right now we don't have this option, but we will definitely consider being able to clean up your TM to only keep whatever is active. Now we're done, I think. So thank you, everyone. Very nice to see many of you that we already know attending the webinar, and many more that we don't.
Yeah, thank you, Nina. Thank you, Maya. And as I wrote in the chat, all of you, we will share the recording of this webinar. So we will send you an email with the link. Thank you. Have a good day and stay in touch. Bye-bye.
And happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Bye, everyone.